Imagine a world untouched by the pulse of competition, a world where innovation stalls, where the skyline remains low and unchanging, and where the marvels of technology, the smartphones that rest in our pockets, never come to exist. For most of human history, wealth was measured by the land one owned, the gold locked away, or the favor bestowed by monarchs. But in the flickering light of the 17th century, a new idea began to take hold. It was a quiet revolution at first, yet it promised freedom, prosperity, and inevitably, staggering inequality. This is the story of capitalism, the force that built empires, shattered the dominance of kings, and forever transformed what it meant to be human. Capitalism is far more than an economic system. It is an ideology, a complex tapestry of beliefs about how wealth should be created, protected, and shared. At its heart lies a simple, yet profoundly disruptive notion that individuals, not governments, should steer the course of trade and industry, that markets, mostly unencumbered, will find their own balance and, in doing so, generate abundance. But how did this system come to conquer the globe, shaping the destinies of nations and the lives of billions? And why does it inspire, in equal measure, worship and resentment? To answer these questions, we must journey back in time, to the tangled roots where capitalism first began to grow. Its earliest shoots appeared in the bustling markets of medieval Europe, among merchants in Venice and traders of the Hanseatic League. These people saw the world not as a fixed hierarchy, but as a place of opportunity, where fortunes could be made through ingenuity and daring. Yet the true spark came with the age of exploration. As ships sailed out from European ports in the 15th and 16th centuries, they returned laden with spices from the East, silver from the Americas, and a flood of new goods that stirred desire and ambition. Wealth was no longer the exclusive province of kings and nobles. Merchant families such as the Medicis of Florence and the Fuggers of Germany rose to rival monarchs, wielding power through commerce rather than crowns. Slowly, the old order began to crumble. The feudal system, with its rigid boundaries and inherited privilege, gave way to private enterprise, where success depended not on birth, but on one's ability to navigate the ever-shifting currents of trade. Yet for capitalism to endure, it needed more than merchants and markets. It needed a philosophy, a justification for its radical new approach to wealth and society. Enter the thinkers who would shape the very soul of capitalism. John Locke, the English philosopher, argued that property was a natural right, rooted in the labour one invested. His ideas laid the groundwork for a society built on personal enterprise. Then in 1776, Adam Smith published The Wealth of Nations, a book that would become capitalism's Bible. Smith declared that self-interest, far from being a vice, could drive prosperity for all. His concept of the invisible hand, the belief that markets, left largely alone, would regulate themselves and allocate resources efficiently, became a cornerstone of capitalist ideology. Yet Smith's gospel offered no guarantee of fairness. As markets grew and fortunes were made, others were left behind. This tension would haunt capitalism for centuries, shaping debates and revolutions. The next chapter in capitalism's story unfolded with breathtaking speed. The Industrial Revolution, beginning in the late 18th century, supercharged the system. Machines replaced manual labor, steam engines powered factories, and railroads shrank continents, connecting distant markets. Entrepreneurs like Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller rose from humble beginnings to amass unprecedented wealth. Capitalism seemed to promise boundless growth and innovation, but the price was steep. The same factories that built fortunes also spawned slums and misery. Workers, including children, toiled in brutal conditions for meagre wages. The glittering progress of industry cast long shadows as millions struggled to survive in the midst of prosperity. The divide between rich and poor grew ever wider, fueling discontent and calls for change. As the 19th century gave way to the 20th, capitalism expanded beyond Europe and North America, transforming into a global force. It became not just an idea, but a tool of empire. Nations like Britain and France wielded markets and trade as weapons, shaping entire continents to serve their economies. Colonies were reorganized to produce raw materials for distant factories, while native populations bore the costs. Yet capitalism was nothing if not adaptable. It survived the collapse of monarchies, rivaled the rise of socialism, and endured the shocks of world wars. In Europe, it evolved into welfare states, blending free markets with social safety nets. In America, it fueled a consumer culture where choice and abundance became the hallmarks of prosperity. The system proved remarkably resilient, able to weather crises and reinvent itself time and again. But from its earliest days, capitalism has attracted fierce criticism. None was more influential than Karl Marx, who saw it as a system doomed to collapse beneath the weight of its own greed. Marx argued that capitalism inevitably rewards the few at the expense of the many, creating cycles of exploitation and crisis. His ideas inspired labor movements, socialist revolutions, and generations of activists who challenged the status quo. Throughout the 20th and into the 21st century, protests against capitalism have erupted around the world. From the labor strikes of the industrial age to the Occupy Wall Street movement, critics have warned of rising inequality, environmental destruction, and the erosion of community. Even today, as billionaires race to colonize space while millions struggle to afford basic healthcare, the debate continues. Is capitalism humanity's greatest invention, or its most dangerous addiction? The legacy of capitalism is complex, marked by triumphs and tragedies. It has built cities of dazzling beauty, cured diseases once thought incurable, and lifted billions out of poverty. Yet it has also deepened inequality, fueled environmental crises, and left countless people behind. Whether capitalism will evolve to meet the challenges of a changing world or implode under the weight of its contradictions remains an open question. But one thing is certain: the history of capitalism is inseparable from the history of humanity itself. It is the story of our ambitions, our ingenuity, and our endless quest to shape the world in our own image. As we look to the future, we must grapple with the legacy of this powerful idea and decide what kind of world we wish to build, for ourselves and for generations yet to come.